Italian Football Podcast.
CJ Barile says, who are your 5 worst Italy national team managers of all time? That's an interesting one. I know who I have as number 1.
Okay, I'll tell you what, I'll give you my 5. And then after that, you can tell me what you think, and we can discuss it a little bit more in length. We'll use this on our YouTube and our socials as well. Yeah. So I'll give you my top 5. So in 5th, I have Giovanni Trapattoni, obviously one of the greatest Italy managers of all time, but he was in charge of a golden generation of Italian talent, but he lost in the last 16 in the 2002 World Cup, and he went out in the group stages of Euro 2004. Now, of course, there were extenuating circumstances as Italy were cheated out of the World Cup by Byron Moreno in 2002, and there was the controversial biscotto between Denmark and Sweden in 2004. So he had a bit of bad luck, but he also didn't do enough, especially with the quality that he had at his disposal. In 4th place is an old one, Edmondo Fabri, who was infamously knocked out of the 1966 World Cup to North Korea, and the whole Italy squad returned home to rotten tomatoes being thrown at them at the airport. In 3rd, I have Luciano Spalletti. Dreadful Euro 2024. He was lucky to qualify for Euro 2024. He risked World Cup failure at the time of his sacking. Defensively awful throughout his entire reign. Bad relationship with some of the members of the squad, and just no identity, and just never was in charge of the group, never in control. So 3rd place, I've got Spalletti. 2nd, I've got, this will come as a shock, Marcello Lippi 2.0. Not felt 1.0 when he won the World Cup, 2.0 when he returned after Euro 2008. He basically was stubborn, arrogant. He kept all of his 2006 winners, even though they were old and past their best. And they put in a dismal performance at the 2010 World Cup. They were in an easy group with Paraguay, New Zealand, and Slovakia. They didn't get a single win. They lost to Slovakia, and they went out. So 2nd place, Marcello Lippi. And then in 1st place, or the worst Italy manager of all time, it has to be Gianpiero Ventura, failing to qualify for the 2018 World Cup. That's what kicked off all this negative cycle of Italy in World Cups. Dismal football. But also Ventura kind of exemplified perfectly the Italian raccomandato culture of, getting a job based on who you know, being protected. He also refused to resign after they failed to qualify. It just summed up how rotten Italian football and Italian culture was and was becoming, and it hasn't really improved since. So Ventura is my worst Italy manager of all time.
I agree with every single one of them in the order they are, except for number 5. I don't think Trapattoni deserves to be there because of the manner what happened in 2002. You disallow 6 goals in 3 games of any team, you break that team mentally. The only thing I will criticize him and maybe was Euro 2004 and Totti behaving like a child, spitting like an idiot, getting himself suspended the way he did. But even then, the fact that the 2-2 was even possible is a disgrace. I can't have Trapattoni there because I think it's unfair. I have Prandelli there. Yes, he got Italy to the final of the Euros, but the manner in which he conducted the final was a disgrace. Had he played Spain in the opening game, if I remember, of the Euros 2012, in a 3-5-2 in a much more balanced system, and Italy were well matched against that Spain. Instead, he decided to go full-on ideologue, and Italy suffered the most humiliating loss in a final ever. Then he stays on, and the cluster F of the World Cup in 2014. I'm sorry, for me, Prandelli is 5th, not Trapattoni. Other than that, I have nothing more to add.
Yeah, I would like to get your view on Spalletti, because you weren't here on Saturday. So I think it's only fair that you have your opinion on him, because me and Alfredo, if you haven't listened to it yet, myself and Alfredo Malabese, who's our social media manager, knows his stuff about Italian football. He's got his own channel as well, Azzurri TV, which is really, really good. It talks a lot about Italy. We did a post-match pod on that debacle against Norway, and it's been, I think it's our third most watched video ever on YouTube, and it's
I think it's the second now. Thank God.
Is it second now? Okay.
Yes, thank God.
It's moved up. It's moved above Floriana. My interview with Floriana Messina. We said at the time he had to go, and this was before it became clear he was going to go. And now it's been announced he's been sacked, and it's his last. We're recording this on Monday. It will be his last game on in the match against Moldova, and then he will go. So, what's your opinion on the sacking? Do you believe it had to happen, and how do you sum up his reign? Really,
if people go on YouTube on Google and Google the Italian Football Podcast Euro 2024, our post-mortem on that disaster comes up. It's the first thing that comes up, and I was listening to it yesterday preparing for this show. I just echo what I say from minute 34 and onwards, that I thought it was a mistake for him to stay on and play a 3-5-2 because that's not the system he wants to play. I think had he continued, should he, and I said it then, if he continues on and stays, it has to be his project fully and completely. Meaning, if it means that he doesn't call up players that doesn't work in his system, then so be it. Rather than compromising and turning it into this hodgepodge mess, which ended against Norway. And I think that's the mistake. The problem with Spalletti is sometimes that he's stubborn to the point of stupidity when he needn't be, and then he gives in when he shouldn't. I think he should have either resigned after the Euros, or if they were pushing him to play a system that he doesn't feel comfortable with because the players wanted it, then he should have said, well, that's not who I am. That's not my football.
Agree.
I'm out. If he had
he wasn't himself after that.
No, he wasn't.
He compromised and yeah, agree. Exactly. Either be yourself and fail, or leave. Let's have somebody else.
Yeah, leave. Instead, it became a complete mix, a mashup compromise where no one was happy, and it turned out to be a disaster. And I think that, to me, that's where it kind of went wrong. That's how I see it. That they shouldn't have been like that.
Tactically, that's where it went wrong. I mean, the problem, I think he would have failed always, because such an important part of being an Italy manager is the mental side, being able to handle the group, being able to create a group spirit, that camaraderie. You're not able to get your tactical print across like you can as a club manager, where you're training them every single day, where you can train and get all the tactics and the positioning and the movement and everything. You can get it spot on because you don't have that time to do that. So you have to just accept that, look, we're not going to be able to do that in international football. We're going to have to succeed in another way. And so you have to be more play basics and create that group spirit, that camaraderie. And Spalletti, that's never been really a strong point of him. He was never able to do it. So even if he had his tactics on point, I don't think he ever would have. He just never was able to.
I disagree with that. I disagree slightly with that, because I think had he had his tactics and his own project and had his own kind of thing and went on with it and excluded certain players, I think he would have been able to create that camaraderie.
He tried that and playing his actual formation, and everybody, including yourself, were calling for him to play back three. And the reason why I was against the back three is because I knew he was incapable of playing it.
Context. Yeah, but there's context here, and that is, he went into the Euros fiddling back and forth with the formation, fiddling back and forth, not having an identity. My problem was, stick to the identity that you're comfortable with. Don't go back and forth all the time, and which is what he did in the Euros, and then ended up playing Switzerland with El Shaarawy and Cristante and all this nonsense. I mean, it was Fagioli. I mean, it was weird. It was just weird. It was confused and muddled. My thing is, Spalletti is at his best when he can be Spalletti, and he tried to he pushed and was too stubborn on some issues when he needn't be, and his communication was really bad. And then he compromised too much, and the whole thing just became a shit show. And I think that's a shame. And when I saw him, I got to say, though, it was really, really heartbreaking to watch him that broken in that press conference. It was not nice to see at all. To see him that sad, that broken, that, he couldn't even talk. You could say he's basically fighting back tears the entire press conference. I think from a human side, I have nothing but empathy for him in that, because this was the greatest honor of his career. He was, after having finally won the Scudetto with Napoli and finally been the bride and not the bridesmaid, he comes into Italy into a really difficult situation, tries to do the best of it, and everything went wrong. A lot of that is, of course, his fault, but a lot of that is also on Gravina and other people as well. And I think it's quite the disgrace that Gravina is still there.
Agreed,
the way that he's handled the Azzurri. But my point is exactly like I said. I think that's when it kind of went wrong. As for the rest, the details of it, I think it was clear that there was a schism between him and the squad, and that he wasn't going to be unable to handle that.
And that was it. Once that happens, any manager's gone, isn't it?
Yeah, it's over. It's over.
Just one final thing, just before we move on. I don't see why he should be. By the time most people listen to this, the game will have been played. But I just find it a bit weird that he's been sacked and he's leaving it, but yet he's still taking charge of this game.
It's so weird. Their communication and the way they've handled this has been dreadful.
Well, he announced his own sacking.
I mean,
that's just Italy for you, isn't it? And that's part of the broader issues which me and Alfredo spoke about, and which we've spoken about in this pod so many times. That these broader problems are going to be present, then this is it doesn't matter who comes in, they're still going to struggle, because I mean, what a mess, eh? Announcing your own second.
I thought it was disgraceful. I thought it was absolutely horrible, and I did not like seeing a servant, someone who's been so important for Italian football. A lot of people forget that the World Cup in 2006 was won with Spalletti's formation, and I think people should remember that. It was his formation, playing, the number 10 role being used that way, the 4-2-3-1. That was Spalletti's invention. I think he deserves much more respect than he gets, and I think he was unworthy, and I didn't like it at all. And the fact that Gravina, like a true coward, sent Spalletti out alone to announce his own sacking, I didn't like it. I did not like it at all.
Yeah, Gravina needs to go, man.
It was gross.
But not just him.
Gross.
All the heads of all the important positions in Italian football, FIGC, the Lega, all of them, they all need to go.
I didn't like it at all. I thought it was, and I felt bad for him, and I thought he was dignified. He was put in a really awkward position. He was fighting back tears. It's a 60-year-old man that they broke, and I don't think he deserved it. I didn't like it at all. But basically my thing on Spalletti is exactly this, that, like I said, I think that either he should have continued rebuilding himself on his terms and kick out whoever he didn't believe in and take the heat for that, but not compromise too much. And I think had he done that, I think that would have made it easier to transition into building a group, to the camaraderie and unit that you say. But instead, it just became confused and muddled, and the results were horrible, and Italy were just ripped apart, and that just destroyed his credibility, and the players felt that he didn't know what he was doing. And I think it became a perfect storm, and I think that's sad.